Howdy. Thanks for learning about MS with me, Aaron Boster. I started this YouTube channel to help my own MS clinic patients learn between visits, and it's my hope that through these videos, I can help you learn too. It is Sunday morning, and it has been several weeks since I last did a multiple sclerosis live stream. We figured out that our internet connection was not doing so hot. We've had a technician come out. He helped troubleshoot. We changed the modem. We did a bunch of other things. And this is my first attempt at jumping back online with you guys. I don't know if it's going to work out. And I am hopeful that you'll give me some feedback. If you're having some buffering, if it's cutting in and out, if you're losing the audio, please let me know. So far, we have a couple people that have jumped online, which warms my heart. Liam C., what's up? Sha I, how are you? Even so, it is well. Hello, hello, Sarah. Hello, Jim. So far, so good. This is fantastic. Liam says, who is the YouTuber? There's a person with MS named Damian Washington out in LA, and he has a YouTube channel, and we were trying to do a very fancy live stream. And honestly, I didn't have the bandwidth, although I didn't know it at the time. So there's 35 of you that have jumped online. I want to try out an Ask Me Anything Q&A, where you guys post questions about multiple sclerosis or related topics, and I'm going to answer them. I've got my coffee cup here. As many of you know, this was made for me by a dear patient of mine. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, we lost the handle, but I don't care. I still love this. Matt is online, one of our wonderful moderators. We've got a lot of great people here. Christopher Eichers, she says it's buffering. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down for the quality, guys. Matt Z, what do you think about the quality, my friend? Are we doing okay here? I've also got my French press of coffee. I've got my little bit of milk handy, and I am ready to rock and roll. Now, as you have questions, hey, Chucko, great to see you. Please keep in mind a couple things. Number one, I can't diagnose you or treat you on the internet. This forum on the interwebs does not replace talking to your clinician. Also, anything I say here is intended for medical education. It's not medical advice. So if Dr. B says something, it does not ever trump what your doctor's saying. The second thing is, please make sure that you keep in mind when you pose a question, you make it a generalized question. So I can't read a paragraph specifically about you and give you an answer for you. But if you can pose the question in a more general fashion, that way I can answer it, and it allows other people to learn as well. When you jump online, oh gosh darn it, Jenny says that they're having some buffering problems already. All right, I'm going to keep trying, Jenny. This is, again, a works in progress. We're having another technician come out in a couple weeks and actually change the internet yet again. We're going to try to upgrade it. But I missed you guys, and I really wanted a chance to jump online. As you write a question, type out question really big in capitals before the question. That way it's easier for me to find. And if our moderators are willing, they're going to identify some of the questions and post them for me. Lastly, I love this growing online global community. So as you jump online, please share with me where you're coming in from. I just adore that. All right. So Melissa Harper asks a question. She says, what drug do you recommend for PPMS? Well, Melissa, presently, there's one FDA-approved drug for primary progressive MS, and that is ocrelizumab, Ocrevus. That's an infusion taken twice a year through the vein. It's a B-cell killer, and I have an entire playlist on this channel dedicated to Ocrevus. I also have several videos dedicated to primary progressive MS. So if you haven't checked those out, I would encourage you to take a look at them and see what you think. Stephanie Turner says, how do you feel about CBD oil? So CBD is one of the many components found in marijuana. CBD is a cannabinoid that does not have any brain effects. It doesn't bind in the noggin. It doesn't make you feel weird or goofy. It can't get you high. There's very little research on CBD. I'm talking like near nothing on CBD and MS. And you might find that weird. You might say, oh, wait a second. When I go into the store, they tell me all these things. And I believe you that they tell you those things, but it's not based on strong scientific evidence. Anecdotally, I have had patients throughout the years tell me that CBD may help with their spasticity or with their pain, and I tend to believe them. I don't think CBD is dangerous, but it's also not regulated. So when you purchase a vial of CBD oil, it's hard to know exactly what's in it. Food for thought. Now, I have videos on cannabinoids and cannabis on this channel. So if you do a search, you can find an entire CME lecture that I did on the topic. These are great questions. Even so, It Is Well poses a question. She says, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting for MS patients? Well, that's a really awesome topic, Even So, It Is Well. I'll start by saying there was a really cool paper looking at people that participated in Ramadan. And so Ramadan is a holiday where for 1 month, you don't eat, drink, or smoke from sunup to sundown. And then you can eat and drink in the evenings after the sun has set. And so for 1 month, you're basically culturally fasting intermittently, because you're not eating for the bulk of the time that you're awake. And there was a study done asking if that was dangerous for people with MS. And the answer is it's not dangerous at all, which is really, really cool. And so that's good information to know. There's been some studies looking at intermittent fasting in general and intermittent fasting specifically with MS. And what they found is it's not dangerous. They've recapitulated that same data, but they also look like it's a really great way of losing weight. Now, I would not recommend doing intermittent fasting without talking to your clinician, because there may be some reasons why that might be a concern for you as an individual. But I would say, as a general comment, I think it's fascinating. Anecdotally, I have several patients and several coworkers that have opted to do intermittent fasting, and they look amazing. They've lost a tremendous amount of weight, and they report to me that they feel like they have more energy. So I don't think it's a crazy thought. I do think that you should check with your provider before doing it, but I think there's something to be for it to be considered. All right, trying not to lose questions here. Also, guys, keep in mind that if I don't answer your question, it's not because I don't like you. It's because I can't find it in the feed. It's very hard for me to scroll through the feed. And so if I miss your question, don't fret. I'll go back through all the questions when I'm done and in the post, and I copy and paste them, and I use them for future live streams or for future videos that I do. So I will get to your question. All right. Katie writes, have you found Botox to work for your patients for MS hug? How long will it last? Great question. So yes, Botox is a poison. It poisons muscles, and it can be injected into a muscle, and it can partially poison that specific muscle. What's cool about Botox is there's no systemic effects. Now, it is off-label to use Botox for MS hug, but it works. I've worked with folks in the past that were experts at Botox, and they would inject into the intercostal muscles, and it would help the MS hug a great deal. It takes an expert to do it because that's an area where you don't want to mess up the Botox. There are some structures just deep to that, like your lungs, and you certainly don't want to mess up the Botox. So you want to make sure that the person doing it is experienced. It should last about 3 to 4 months. Botox tends to have an effect that lasts about 3 months or up to 4 months. And so if it works and it were to, God forbid, to come back, you could theoretically go in 3-4 times a year and knock it out of the park. Liam writes in a question, what do you think is the best treatment for anxiety in MS? My area of underfunded in mental health, so I'm paying somebody privately for CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's early days. So cognitive behavioral therapy is my favorite form of therapy. I love it. I think it's highly effective. I think it's a really good idea for anxiety. So first off, Liam C., good job. That is an excellent thing to explore. I think that there's a lot of behavioral measures that one can adopt to help with anxiety. And one of the things I like about cognitive behavioral therapy is it helps you identify thought patterns that are causing you to go into this cycle of anxiety, and it teaches you how to break them. I have family members and I have patients that I care for that have had great success in using cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a host of other things you can do. And I have several videos on my channel in a playlist called Mood, where I talk about depression and anxiety. Anxiety is actually twice as common amongst people with MS as compared to the general population. And there's a host of things we can do. Exercise, mindfulness, meditation have been shown to be helpful. There's lots of medicines that can be helpful. It is absolutely something worthy of bringing up to your doctor. Let's see, I've got a question from Jim Klukar, who writes, have you read Dr. Beamer's new book? And I think he means Dr. Bieber. So Jim, I'm not familiar with Beamer, but there is a guy named Dr. Brandon Bieber, Beaber, who is a young MS neurologist at Kaiser Permanente, and he just wrote a book on resilience. I've read the book. I think it's phenomenal. I actually wrote a blurb about it, which I think is on the cover somewhere, a back cover maybe. I think it's a phenomenal book. And if you are impacted by MS, meaning you have MS or your care partner has MS, I think it's a worthy book to read. I really liked it. So 2 thumbs up for Dr. Brandon Bieber. It took him 5 long years to write that book. He wrote it while he was working full time. Hats off to him, because that is a colossal amount of work. All right, so I've got a question from IBBO John, Ibo John. Hi from UK. Well, hello. Question. What do you think about neurological painkillers? What are the most effective? Great question. Now, I have a video on this channel where I talk about why I dislike narcotics and how narcotics are not a good medicine for neuropathic pain. In that video, I talk about several other options that are highly successful for treating neuropathic pain. In fact, I have an entire playlist on this channel called MS Hurts, where I talk about lots of different kinds of neuropathic pain. And when it comes to treatment, one of the common modalities is to either use anti-seizure or antidepressant medicines. Not because the person has a seizure and not because they're depressed, but because those class of medicines alter neurotransmitters or stabilize cell membranes, and they work really, really well to treat neuropathic pain. So medicines like Cymbalta, Neurontin, Lyrica, medicines like Trileptal or Topamax or Tegretol, Depakote, these are fantastic medicines to manage neuropathic pain. Medicines like Pamela or Elavil, none of them were invented to treat pain, but they all are highly, highly effective in doing so. Definitely worthwhile talking to your MS provider or to your provider about using neuropathic pain medicines. They also don't have the tolerance and dependence associated with binding up mu receptors like we see with pain medicines. Excellent question. Thank you for asking it. Nice to talk to someone in the UK. Speaking of that, I am really excited. Later this week, I will be headed out to the ECTRIMS meeting. ECTRIMS is the European Congress for Treatment and Research in Multiple Sclerosis. It is the International Olympics of Multiple Sclerosis. Last year, I believe there were over 9,000 MS neurologists that gathered in one location. This year, it's in Stockholm, Sweden. So I'll be getting on a plane later this week and heading over to ECTRIMS. I'm going to bring my camera, and I'll try to do a live stream if I can. I'll definitely do some videography and then do some videos about ECTRIMS. It's an amazing, a really, really cool place to be. I learn a tremendous amount. There will be like 1,200 posters and multiple plenary sessions. There's going to be some really big news brought out at ECTRIMS. There was a study done of a drug called ponesimod pitted against a drug called Aubagio, and so we're going to get a readout on those results. There's another drug called ufatumumab. I didn't make up these names. And it was pitted against Aubagio, and we're going to get the results of that. And so I'm very, very excited to be going to ECTRIMS. It's also a place where I get to see good friends of mine from around the globe that treat MS, and we exchange ideas and network, and it's super cool. So more to come on that, but I'll be headed over to Europe very shortly. So another question here. This one is from Ann Walsh, who writes, "Hi, Dr. Boster." Well, hello, Ann. Wondering what if your opinions are changing on Tysabri. well, I read that wrong. Wondering your opinion on changing from Tysabri down to Gilenia. On Tysabri 13 years, and from Ireland. And I love your country. It's one of the most beautiful places in the universe as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for the question. Gilenia is a highly effective pill. Tysabri, in my opinion, is a more effective drug. And so I think all things being equal, if you're just thinking about efficacy, Tysabri outperforms Gilenia in groups of people. Now, you're not a groups of people, you're one individual. Moreover, the side effects and risk profiles are different. And so I don't have enough information to answer the question specifically for you. I would have to understand the JC virus status, how well your disease was controlled on Tysabri, and why we were considering moving to Gilenia. Oftentimes, when I have someone on Tysabri, I don't transition to Gilenia. If they need to come off Tysabri, I'm oftentimes trying to stay at the same level of efficacy. So for me, in my opinion, that oftentimes involves staying with another monoclonal antibody, whether that be ocrelizumab or alemtuzumab. That's just my 2 cents. It doesn't make me right, but it does make me opinionated. Let's look at some other questions. So I've got, I'm going to butcher your name. I'm sorry. Farouz writes in, hi from London. Well, hello. What do you do to gain weight? What to do with weight gain? Probably from taking a gabapentin and duloxetine. Thanks a million for everything. Well, you're very, very welcome. You honor me for jumping online. Thank you very much for being here. Thank all of you for being here. In fact, why don't we all raise our coffee cups and celebrate this global growing online village? There's 84 of us that have jumped online, and I want to thank you all for that. There's 17 thumbs up. If you like what we're doing, give it a thumbs up. It lets me know that this is working well and that you enjoy this interaction. Now, with related question, it's true that Neurontin, gabapentin, and duloxetine, which is Cymbalta, can contribute to weight gain. I'm not saying it always causes weight gain, but it can. And so what do you do about that? Well, one thing that you want to make sure you're doing is that you're taking as many efforts as possible to control your weight. Paying attention to calories in and calories out, paying attention to the kind of calories that you're eating is very, very important. Trying to exercise, trying to stay physically active. These are all things that all of us need to be doing. And so you want to make sure as we think about this that you've got that on point. And if you don't, that's where I would always start. Make sure that you're sleeping well, that you're eating healthy and clean, and that you're trying to get exercise on a daily basis. The next thing that I would think about is there another option? Could you use less medicine and still have pain control, for example? And if so, maybe there would be less side effects of weight gain. Ultimately, if it's a no-go and your exercise is outstanding, your diet and nutrition is outstanding, lower amounts of that medicine don't work, it is possible that you might have to consider switching to a different therapy. And there are other medicines that could work. For example, when I look at that medication list, I'm thinking about treating neuropathic pain. Now, you might be on it for a different reason, but let's just pretend that's why you're on it. There's a medicine called topiramate or Topamax. It's another seizure medicine, and it can be used for pain control, and it doesn't cause weight gain. It causes weight loss. Duloxetine is an antidepressant, and so hypothetically, you could be on that medicine to treat depression and mood. And just for the sake of the conversation, let's assume that. Wellbutrin is another antidepressant that causes weight loss, not weight gain. My point here is it's worthwhile having a discussion with your MS neurologist or with your care provider to see if there's other options. Now, you guys know that I love me some coffee, and here's my mighty French press. And a little bit of milk never hurt nobody. So enjoy. So what else do we have going on here today? Sherry Starkey writes, MS hot flashes. Now, I'm not familiar with multiple sclerosis causing hot flashes. I am familiar with menopause causing hot flashes, and I am familiar with one of the MS medicines called Tecfidera or dimethylfumarate causing hot flashes. My mentor used to say, sometimes nature is too generous, meaning that you can have MS and you can have hot flashes from another cause. I can sometimes see hot flashes in people that have thyroid abnormalities. My point here is that's something that sounds awful and annoying, and I would bring it up to your provider and say, hey, I'm having these hot flashes. What do we think? Great question. Thank you for asking it. What else do we have going on here? Katie Tar writes in, did you see my MS hug question above? Right, I think I answered the MS question hug. So I think we're good there. So Tamara Mohammed writes, best exercise for MS patients. That's a good question. Now, Tamara, I have an entire playlist on my channel called Exercising with MS. And I have many videos that I've done on exercising with MS. I've interviewed physical therapists in videos on that section. I've talked about balance on that section. And so if you haven't checked out that playlist on exercising with MS, I would encourage you to go check it out. Let's talk about it right now after a sip of coffee. So, Tamara, exercising is very, very important in MS. I have a saying that some of you have heard that I want you to be 4 for 4 in your fight against MS. Being 4 for 4 in your fight means not smoking cigarettes because it speeds up MS, paying attention to diet, supplementing low levels of vitamin D, eating clean, etc., taking an MS medicine and making sure it's working. And the last one, number 4 of being 4 for 4, is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. Now, exercising as part of your lifestyle means it's something that you're going to do on a continued basis. It's not something that you're going to do for a week, or it's not something that you're going to do just for a month. It's something that you're going to do on a continued basis. And the reason I bring that up is we have to find exercise that you don't hate. So if you detest running and you set out to go run, you're not going to do it for very long. Also, we have to be cognizant of the fact that as we age, we can't do the same exercise we did when we were younger. And with MS, sometimes there are limitations. And so one of my favorite avenues for exercise in folks with MS is anything in the water. Swimming, of course, but other things like walking in the water, amazing exercise. The reason that I love this, think about it with me, is if you're off balanced and you fall to the left, the water pushes to the right. If you have a weak left leg and it's hard to pick it up, you weigh less in the water. If you get overheated and then short circuit, the water is cool in temperature and pulls the heat off your body. Spasticity is less of an issue in water. And sometimes neuropathic pain is less of an issue in water. And so think about throwing a life jacket on, getting in a pool with a lifeguard and just walking. That would be amazing exercise. Doing water Zumba or water aerobics is really, really cool. Other things that you can do on land, I really like yoga. I think that yoga or Pilates is a fantastic way of exercising. But the bottom line is I want you to do whatever it is you're willing to do on a regular basis. Another important tip as it relates to exercise is to throw away the high school mentality of more, or nothing at all. And so I posted a article that I found yesterday on my Twitter account, and it talked about how even short little bursts of exercise, going up a flight of steps, contributes to your long-term success of exercise goals. So it doesn't have to be a hardcore hour. It could be a little bit here and a little bit there. Here's an idea. Get a used stationary bike. Put it in your living room. And when you're watching television in the evenings and the commercials come on, just casually pedal on the bike for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. If you do that every single commercial, you'll have gotten in over a half an hour of exercise. And a realistic goal to work towards with exercise is a half an hour, 5 times a week. And you might say, oh my goodness, Aaron, there's no way I can do that. Well, there's no way you can do it today, but there might be slowly, incrementally over time, something to work towards. That was a great question. Thank you for asking it. So the next question comes from Who's Kickin'? That's a cool name. Hello, Who's Kickin'? Oh, I just lost it. Darn it. I'm going to try to scroll back. Who's kicking? If I missed your question, it's not because I don't like you. It's because I'm dyslexic, and it's very hard for me to find questions here. Oh gosh, darn it. Who's kicking? I am so sorry. All right. Oh, there it is. I found it. Yay. There is a huge database type system worldwide to plug in all patient symptoms, health history, and demographics, things to help find potential common background to find causes. Oh, the question is there one? No. There's no universal system where we can plug everything in. There are individual databases. My mentor used to maintain a database of his patients. We used to maintain a database where I worked, but they're individual databases. They're not global databases. And so we don't have something like that just yet. So Christy Starks asks, question, how often should a patient get follow-up brain MRIs? In January, I had optic neuritis for the first time, and I had a brain MRI that showed only one non-enhancing lesion, not officially diagnosed yet. So Christy, it really depends on what we're trying to do. In this situation, you have had an optic neuritis, which is considered a clinically isolated syndrome. When I have a patient that I'm following with clinically isolated syndrome, they're at risk of going on to get MS. And so I image their brain once every 6 months. And I will do a once every 6 month brain MRI for about 2 to 3 years. And then I'll do it once a year for 2 to 3 years. And that's just my style. In a person with multiple sclerosis, I like to image their brain once a year, at least until age 60. And I like to image their spinal cord every couple years, particularly if I'm following response to a therapy. And so it really depends on why we're getting the MRI. But frequent MRI imaging, meaning once a year, is the best biomarker that we have in 2019. All right. So Nisso Standard writes, was waiting for this as have a question about MS relapses. Well, Nisso, you're in the right place. I've been having terrible hives like rush for the last couple of weeks. No amount of antihistamine helps. Tried all of them from a pharmacy. Well, Nisso, I would talk to your provider. I would make an appointment and be seen, because those hives could be coming from some medical condition that you have, or it could be coming from a medicine that you're on. And I would not recommend taking a bunch of antihistamines because they have side effects. And so I would seek out your medical provider, and I hope that you can find some relief. Best of luck to you. Niso writes, can it be an MS relapse? I am not familiar with an MS relapse causing hives. MS can do darn near anything, but it generally doesn't do skin. And so when listening to that, I don't think, oh, that's a relapse. Now, of course, I can't answer for your specific situation. You need to go talk to your doctor. Liam writes in, if somebody has decreased long distance vision following a relapse, but their vision has been stable ever since, can they have laser eye surgery? That's a great question. And laser eye surgery changes the shape of the eyeball, kind of, changes the way the lens reflects light. And that's very different than if there's damage to the optic nerve. The answer here, honestly, is to talk to the MS neurologist and to talk to the ophthalmologist. The ophthalmologist understands optic neuritis. The ophthalmologist who's going to do the LASIK procedure is going to be very aware of the limitations of the procedure, and they can guide you. Now, there's 101 people online joining me for morning coffee. God bless. Thank you. This is awesome. I hope that we're not buffering too bad right now. There's 38 thumbs up. If you're on this call and you love what we're doing, give me a thumbs up. I think that you actually have to leave the live stream, click the thumbs up button, and jump back in. But show me a little bit of thumbs up love if you like what's going on right now. Now, Sonia R writes in and says, how can MS patient help get their cognitive functions back? Excellent question. Sonia, cognition, difficulty with thinking and memory, is one of the most common symptoms in multiple sclerosis. And I have a playlist on thinking and memory and MS. I want you to check out that playlist. I have I don't know, probably 10, 15 videos that I've done exactly on that topic. A couple of the videos are some of my most popular videos on the channel, and I talk about it in great depth. Just to name a couple things, you want to be sleeping adequately. You want to be exercising as part of your lifestyle. You want to avoid recreational drugs and alcohol. You want to make sure that you're not on any medicines that can cloud the sensorium. And you want to make sure that you're managing your depression. You want to make sure that you're managing your fatigue. So I could talk for years and years about cognition. There's a quick little ditty for you, but check out that playlist. Now, Matt Z is a great guy. Matt is one of the moderators, and he helps out a great deal. Matt, thank you as always. And he is queuing up questions for me because the moderator comes out with a blue name, and so it makes it easier for me to find with my dyslexia trying to manage all this. So thank you, Matt. And some of these questions I've already grabbed, so I feel like I'm doing an okay job. I'm scrolling down trying to find a couple questions. All right, so Tim McCready writes, question, is there a natural way to increase white blood cell count? Your white blood cells are the fighters that fight off bad guys, and they're part of your immune system. And in multiple sclerosis, speaking grossly in generalities, the white blood cells are overly active. I don't want you to increase your white blood cell count. And if there was a natural supplement that boosted your white blood cell count, that might not be the right direction in an autoimmune condition. Now, there are situations where people have a low white blood cell count, and that can increase the risk for infection. I'm not aware of a food that makes it go up or down, but that's not something I would want you to do on your own ever. I definitely would want you to do that only under the close supervision of your doctor. Matt writes in an important comment, keep your questions under 200 characters. That's because Matt is working his butt off, copying and pasting these so I can find them. Again, thank you, Matt. So Katie Tarr writes, any new imaging technology on the horizon to better detect those small spinal lesions? Yes, there is constantly an evolution in the MRI. And there are some amazing researchers around the world that are constantly working on how to do better MRI imaging of the brain and spinal cord. I'm going to hold off, Katie, on answering your question. I'm going to be going to the ECTRIMS meeting later this week, and I will look for new updates in imaging, and I will come back on here and I'll share with you what I learned. So stay tuned. So Kim Bubble writes, good afternoon from the Netherlands. How uncommon are seizures with MS? So I'm going to be in Stockholm, Sweden, just next to you later this week. So hello, howdy, hi, I'll wave. And seizures are 6 times more common amongst people impacted by MS as compared to the general population. So they're way more common amongst people with MS. Why? Because people with MS can have spots, lesions, brain damage on the surface of the brain, and it can cause an electrical storm on the surface of the brain, and that's what triggers seizures. So Sherry Haywood writes, can you explain the difference between white matter lesions and gray matter lesions? So the gray matter is the bark on the surface, the outside of the brain, and that's literally the computer that we use to think. The white matter are all the wires that connect the gray matter. And lesions in the white matter can interrupt those connections, so the signals aren't passed where they're supposed to. So if you have part of the brain over here, and then you're trying to send a message over here, and there's a lesion in the middle, then it's interrupted like a traffic jam. If there's a lesion in the gray matter, it can actually damage the structure that's trying to do the thinking. Both occur in multiple sclerosis, and both are bad for you. It looks like gray matter pathology correlates better with long-term disability and correlates better with cognitive impairment, but neither are good for you. What else do we have going on? So Michelle Veen writes, do you know of Aubagio causing nerve pain? Yes. Aubagio has a very rare side effect of causing neuropathy, where you can have pain in the fingertips and in the toes. And if you have new neuropathic pain, not the whole arm, just in the fingertips, and not the whole leg, just the toes, then you need to talk to your MS provider immediately. Oftentimes in where I work, we would get a EMG, a nerve conduction study, to try to figure out if the nerves have been damaged. And if the answer is yes, we stop the medication. Fortunately, this is very rare. It's one of the known side effects of Aubagio. It doesn't happen very often at all, but it's something that we want to be on the lookout for. So if it does happen, we can stop the medicine. Fortunately, if you stop the medicine, it doesn't continue. So Janelle Grubbs writes, as of November 13/18, I think she means 2018, new FDA safety alert for Gilenya. Can you explain more in detail? I'm not familiar about that safety update, although I did do a safety update a couple months ago, so it might have been during that time. If you look back on my channel, I did a safety update for Gilenya and for Lemtrada on the same day. Look back through my videos, and I did a safety update at that time. So Jennifer Cruikshank writes, question, have you heard reports of serious hair loss with Ocrevus? No, I have not. I've treated a lot of people with Ocrevus, and I've had one or two people say that they noticed mild hair thinning, but I've never had anyone tell me that they had major hair loss. That's not something that I'm familiar with that drug. Sasha comes on from Siberia and says, it's good to see you live again. It is great to be here. I really hope that this is working out as far as the quality of the live stream. You know, we had a very serious problem with our internet. It was kind of yucky. We had a technician come out and replace the modem, and I really hope that this is working better. We have another technician coming out in a couple weeks to try to boost the internet. And so I'm hopeful that it'll get even better. Thank you guys for being so patient with me. As you know, I'm not very technically savvy, and so trying to figure out all this internet stuff is challenging for me. All right, looking for some other questions. I've got a lot of thumbs up. Love your coffee mug. Wendy, thank you. I want to tell you a quick story about this coffee mug while I queue up some more coffee. So I have a wonderful, fantastic patient, a young lady who I take care of. And when I met her, she wasn't very active. She kind of sat in front of the television. She had a care partner that would get her meals and bring them to her, and she just kind of vegged out all day. And I encouraged her family, she lived with her parents, to throw out the television and force her to start to do her own stuff. And I challenged her to something that I call non-talk therapy, to get out of the house and go do an activity. And I said, why don't you go do pottery? I didn't really mean go do pottery. I was just using it as an example. Well, she has done some serious pottery, and she made this for me. Now, I broke the handle off, and I can't really turn it because I don't want to spill the coffee, but look at this thing. This is absolutely gorgeous. I love this mug. And the fact that my patient made it for me means the world to me. It is a prized possession, and even though the handle's missing, I don't care. I love this. Nikela Cumberbatch from Barbados writes in, wow. Does the symptoms ever stop? Tingling and pain over a year, gabapentin and amitriptyline. Other than getting fat, it doesn't take away the pain. I'm on beta serum. So Nikela, I can't answer for you specifically, but what I can say is that yes, neuropathic pain can be treated. I have a lot of videos on my channel. I have an entire playlist called MS Hurts. I want you to check that out. You listed 2 medicines that are very commonly used to treat neuropathic pain in MS, but I can think of 15, 16, 17 other medicines. So if you haven't had success with those medicines, get back to the MS provider and say, we need to talk about other options to control my pain. I don't want you to give up yet. We can control pain in MS. Sometimes we have to work at it before we find the right fit or the right combination of medicines. Ann Walsh, back from Ireland. You responded to my question. I'm so excited that you did. This is awesome. So are you, Ann. So are you. There's 121 people online. That warms my heart. We've been doing this for about 39 minutes. I've got 63 thumbs up. Guys, if you like, back in the live stream. Yep. So Even So It Is Well, Brandon, he's a young MS neurologist out in California, works at Kaiser Permanente. He recently published a book that I think is phenomenal called Resilience in MS. He also has a YouTube channel. Now, he's just gotten started on YouTube, and he's got some great YouTube videos. So if you guys haven't checked him out, go check out Brandon Bieber, look at his videos, and give him some love. So Amy writes, question, infusion nurses struggle to find my veins. Told me it would be harder over time. Is this true? It can be. So sometimes our veins are really easy to access. I have really easy to access veins. Some people have really challenging to access veins. A couple of things that you can do: drink lots of water. I mean, a lot of water before you go into your infusion. Because if you have a lot of blood volume by drinking more water, the veins are plumper, they're easier to get in. Also, you can use a heating pad, because using a heating pad makes the veins kind of expand and more easily accessed. And those are two tricks that you can try out. It can be challenging. Also, some infusion nurses have an easier time accessing veins compared to others. And so if you find an infusion nurse that has a really good facility in your veins, ask for him or her. Literally, they learn your veins. So it can get harder as time goes on, but it doesn't mean that all is lost and that you can't have an infusion. Looking for other questions. Pinewood Drive writes, question, how to bring up applying for disability with your neuro, and what should you discuss with them? So I think that communication is king. I think that communication is key. And I would simply tell your neurologist that you're having concerns about your ability to work, and would they talk to you about it? That discussion, I would hope, would first focus on what can be done with adaptations to keep you working. So can there be an accommodation? Can you work from home through telemedicine or telecommuting? Can you work at different hours? Can you have more frequent breaks? Can they change the type of work you do? I would want to explore those things first. Now, sometimes that's not adequate, and sometimes we do have to apply for disability. I don't want you to be embarrassed about that. I want you to bring it up and talk to your provider about it. They should be willing to talk to you about that. So what else do we have cooking here? Looking for other questions. So Adam writes in, what are your thoughts on Provigil? I think Provigil is amazing. Provigil is a central acting stimulant. It's not an amphetamine salt, but it can make the difference between working and not working, being awake and not being awake, quality of life and not quality of life. Provigil can cause some side effects. It can raise the blood pressure and some other things. It's only available via prescription. And I think it's a really great one, worthwhile talking about. So Jenny Montego is calling in from Australia. Jenny, that's on my bucket list. I would love to get out and visit Australia. I'm either full on with reffing basketball and so fatigue suggestions. My suggestion is don't you dare quit. My suggestion is keep on keeping on. My suggestion is play smarter, not harder. And so you don't want to push real hard and then spend 3 days in bed. And for example, you may find that if you ref 3 basketball games, you can do it, and then you spend 2 days in bed recovering. In that case, maybe what happens if you only ref 1 basketball game? Are you able to then give yourself a day to recover and then do another one? My point is stop, but you have to pace yourself. And please don't quit reffing basketball. He writes, look into MS Gym. You know, let me share with you something really cool. I recently started to have with a certified physical therapist out in, I believe, New Hampshire, out on the East Coast somewhere. And she's creating a virtual physical therapy platform. I've only recently started a chit chat with her. Very, very impressive work that she's doing. More to come. I think that reaching someone virtually, which she's doing, which the MS Gym attempts to do, is really very, very cool. So Paul writes in, Dr. Boster, the stream looks and sounds terrific. Yes. I'm so happy to hear that. You guys know that I've been super frustrated recently because I've tried to do some live streams and it buffered so badly. So I'm really, really glad to know that things are a bit better. I will raise my coffee cup to that. So Karina writes in, hi, Dr. Boster. Well, hello, Karina. Oh, darn it. I just skipped past it. Crud. Let me see if I can scroll back and find it. Oh, man. Sorry, Karina. I'm trying to scroll back and find your question. If I miss it, you know that I'll pick it up later. All right, I can't find it. Darn it. Sorry about that. I certainly didn't mean to. That it skips around when I try to look at the feed. Karina, I will find your question and I will answer it for you later. Shannon Lewis, getting ready to start my first dose of Ocrevus soon. Congratulations. Coming off of Gilenya. My white blood cell count's extremely low. Taking 50,000 international units of K vitamin D3 weekly. Any tips on raising them? So Gilenya sequesters 80% of your lymphocytes, your white blood cells, in your lymph nodes. And it can take, on average, 3 months for them to come back out. And so the only way to allow that to happen is to give it time. And I would be getting white blood cell counts through your MS provider on a serial basis, maybe every 2 weeks or maybe every month. And that way, when they see that it's coming back up and it's safe, you can start on your Ocrevus. Definitely something to game out with your provider. Excellent question. So Therese Johnson writes, what are your thoughts on if dairy should be avoided by people with MS, as recommended by Overcoming MS by Professor George Genelek? So the jury is out. That is not gospel. It has not been proven that dairy is bad for you. A lot of adults have problems processing dairy. Now, that has nothing to do with MS. What I would say to you is there's no diet that's been proven to slow multiple sclerosis. I'll repeat that. There's no diet that's been proven to slow multiple sclerosis. It is possible that your diet plays a major role in your quality of life, and particularly in your energy levels. And if you avoid dairy, and any change in your diet, I would give 1 month. So if you avoid dairy for a month and you find that you're less bloated, that your GI system works better, that you have more energy, that's great. If you avoid dairy for a month and you don't notice any benefits, then I'm not sure it's the right thing for you. You know, one of the things that you can consider is talking to a registered dietitian. Those are really smart people that have excellent training and they can help you game it out. But I just want to highlight the fact that that is not gospel. So Alexis writes, what's the efficacy of rituximab? Rituximab is an amazing drug. Rituximab is not FDA approved here in the United States, but it is a very effective medicine to treat MS. I consider rituximab to be amongst the most effective medicines out there. Good stuff. In the United States, there is another monoclonal antibody that's kind of a cousin of rituximab called ocrelizumab that is FDA approved, and it is an excellent drug to treat MS. Both of them are B-cell killers. We're going to see many, many more B-cell killers join the armamentarium. That's coming soon. Amanda writes, Village is surrounding you. We're here to support you online right now, and you are not alone. It's my hope that you analyze whether the drug that you're taking to prevent relapses is working or not, and if you need to upgrade, upgrade. So Beth Negro writes, question. Hi, Dr. Boster. Well, hello, how are you? What do you think of intrathecal methotrexate for progressive MS that's aggressive? So that's a fascinating question. There is some research done many years ago looking at intrathecal methotrexate. I don't think that there's a definitive answer, but preliminary evidence looked pretty good. Intrathecal methotrexate, which is injecting methotrexate into the thecal sac, has very serious risk and side effect. And so it's a risk benefit. It's off-label. It's completely not approved in any country for MS. And I think there's a paucity of research. Me personally, that's not where I would reach when treating progressive MS, but the original preliminary research actually looked promising. Jenny said, don't know how you keep up. You're right, Matt, thank you very much. Grateful for your help. Shannon Lewis says, I worry about getting into a relapse, being off my disease modifying therapy. Dr. Boster just answered the question, right on. April says, thank you for making the videos. April, you're welcome. Clinic visits. My hope that I can help you learn too by providing easily digestible medical education through these videos and through these live streams. I really enjoy doing this. It's fun for me. And I try to put out a video once to twice a week. And I try, when my internet's working, to do a live stream a couple times a month. Feedback like that makes me feel great and keeps me motivated to keep on keeping on. So as long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. Thank you. So the cupcake, or the Pupcake Bakery says, sorry, I butchered that. The Pupcake Bakery says, could you provide your thoughts on Mayzent? So Mayzent is siponimod. Siponimod is a Gilenya Me Too drug. And in my opinion, it's very, very similar to Gilenya. I think that the differences between Mayzent and Gilenya are minuscule. I don't think that the drug works better than Gilenya. I think that they've changed a little bit of the way that you take the drug. So some people don't have to do that day titration. They do an up titration with a couple pills. I think that Mayzent is not bringing something new to the table. I think that Mayzent is a Gilenya Me Too drug, kind of like Coke and New Coke, or Coke and Diet Coke. It's still Coca-Cola. So that's my opinion about Mayzent. Now, Gilenya will probably be generic in the relatively near future, and Mayzent will not. And so I think that one of the things we have to consider in the modern era is the price of medications and the cost of Mayzent as compared to Gilenya. Again, my opinion is that it's a Gilenya Me Too drug, and you're not getting much more with Mayzent that you would with Gilenya. I really don't think it's all that different. That's my opinion. Again, that doesn't make me right. It just makes me really opinionated. So JKNSKJ says, I take Solumedrol once a month as an infusion, 1,000 milligrams. What are your thoughts on using Solumedrol as a monthly preventative treatment for inflammation? That's something that was done commonly in the 1980s, and it's fallen out of favor by most MS neurologists because of the side effect profile of frequent doses of Solumedrol. I personally would not recommend that for my patients because of the risk of infection and the damage that it could make to the endocrine system and to your bones. But again, I don't know your specific situation. I can't comment for you specifically. That is something that I had done in the past. One of my closest patients, a dear friend of mine, suffered a Legionella pneumonia, was in the intensive care unit. And it was a scary, scary, horrible thing for him and his family, and for me and my family. And so I hesitate when I hear that because I don't want something bad to happen. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying that I'm uncomfortable with it for those reasons. And it's really fallen out of favor largely here in the United States for that reason. Annapolis Gary writes, this has become an amazing channel. Thank you. I never in a million years thought that this channel would grow the way that it has. There are like 14,300 subscribers, which is really very cool. If you're watching this live stream and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It really means a lot to me, actually. It helps the channel grow. It helps the YouTube algorithm recognize that what we're doing here is awesome. I never realized that I could jump online on a Sunday and there would be 100 people that jumped online with me. And that makes me feel really, really great. Thank you for the comment, and I'm going to keep on keeping on. All right, we're getting close to the hour. It was my goal to test out the internet waters and see if we had good connectivity. I feel like we have. I'm going to answer another question or two. So what else do we have cooking here? Question. Which drug do you prefer for secondary progressive MS, Ocrevus or Mayzent? Mayzent is not special. It's not magically adept at treating secondary progressive MS. In fact, if you look at the data, Mayzent worked better in patients that were younger and patients that were more inflammatory. Now, Ocrevus is approved to treat all forms of MS. Mayzent is approved to treat all forms of MS. And in my very strong opinion, Ocrevus is a superior medicine. That's just my opinion. There's no Pepsi Coke challenge, but Mayzent is a moderately effective drug. Ocrevus is a highly effective drug. And so obviously my answer is not Mayzent. DM Hockey 33 says, good morning from Maryland. Well, hello, it's good to see you. Anna Carroll writes, is white matter disease the same as MS? I was diagnosed 2 years ago. No. So white matter disease is talking about a location. It's saying something's wrong in the white matter of the brain. There's lots of reasons one can have white matter disease, but that doesn't mean MS specifically. When we're trying to diagnose MS, and I have videos on my channel about how you diagnose MS, we're taking a careful history, we're doing a proper neurological examination, we're looking at the MRI, and we're looking for patterns. We're looking for patterns of white matter spots. So all things that are white on the MRI do not equal MS. It's much more involved than that. To finish my comments, sometimes we need a lumbar puncture, and also we need to rule out other things. And ruling out other things includes ruling out other causes of white matter problems. So to love is to live 89. That's a cool name. To love is to live 89. Writes, autonomic dysfunction in MS, why do many neurologists not acknowledge it? Autonomic dysfunction is not common in multiple sclerosis. Autonomic function is part of the peripheral nervous system, and MS affects the central nervous system. Now, there is part of the central nervous system called the hypothalamus, which is a structure in the brain that drives the peripheral nervous system. And so rarely you can have involvement of the hypothalamus, which can then affect the autonomic nervous system. But if you have MS and you have autonomic dysfunction, I think that we are required to go looking for other causes of autonomic dysfunction to make sure that we're not just assuming it's MS, and in fact, nature's been too generous and you have more than one thing going on. So Sonia R says, drink more water with that coffee, please. I will be switching to water, but it's not time yet. It's still time for the Java. And so I promise you that later today, I will be crushing some water, as you know I like to do. When I go to the gym, for example, I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. And throughout the day, I'll be drinking a lot of carbonated water. But for the time being, it is coffee time. And you guys know that I love me some coffee. All right. So Michael Phillip writes, question, is hair loss common with Tecfidera? And is it common for the flushing to go away and come back worse? So hair loss is something that I'm very familiar with. Hair loss is not common with Tecfidera. Flushing is. And what I've found about the flushing is most people have flushing that tends to go away after a couple months. But if you change the time of day that you take the Tecfidera, or if you take the Tecfidera without eating beforehand, you can have very serious flushing. So if you're on Tecfidera, I would make sure that I'm taking it at exactly the same 2 time points, and I would make sure that I'm eating just beforehand. That helps a great deal. Definitely talk to your provider about flushing. Definitely work out with them things that you can consider to help minimize the flushing. So Bluthden writes, is walking an adequate form of exercise for MS? I don't have the opportunity to go to the gym or swim laps or lift weights, but walking 20 to 30 miles a week while working at a restaurant, yes. I would submit that that is an active lifestyle. You might throw on a Fitbit or some type of pedometer or tracker so that you can track how long you're walking. I think walking 20 to 30 miles over a week is a lot of walking. And I think that's an excellent way of staying in shape and being active. Good job. I think that that's something that we should all strive to do. So I'm not going to be able to pronounce this name. Urvashi. Urvisha says, how much physiotherapy is helpful for MS? Physiotherapy is very, very helpful in MS. It's very rare that I meet someone with multiple sclerosis that doesn't benefit from a tune-up. And physical therapists are masters, they're wizards at helping people figure out how to optimize their wellness, optimize their physical fitness, stay in shape, improve their balance, their coordination, their strength. It's a really good idea. So if you haven't seen a physical therapist yet, I would definitely encourage you to do so. All right, guys, we've just crested 1 hour. There's 118 of you online. It warms my heart. Thank you to this global growing online village for jumping online with me Sunday morning, enjoying a bit of coffee and answering Ask Me Anything Q&As. I am super excited that my internet is back up and running, and you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to be doing some live streams with more frequency now that I know what's working online. I want to thank the moderators, Chuck O. I want to thank Matt Z for your help in making this live stream a success. And I want to thank every single one of you for caring and for joining in this global village, for asking your questions. If I didn't get to your question, don't fret. I will read through in the post, and I'll save those questions. I'll answer them in future live streams or in future videos. Once again, my name's Aaron Boster, and thank you for learning about MS with me. I started this channel to help my own MS clinic patients learn between clinic visits, and it's my hope that through these live streams and through my videos, I can help you learn too. So until the next time that I'm online doing a live stream, or the next time that I'm making a video, I try to do that about twice a week. God bless, have a great weekend, and take care.